So hi everybody and welcome back. This is a C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners, and this is video 139, and in this video I want to make a short introduction for our next exercise. And the reason for that is because our next exercise is a repetition of all keywords. But before I start with this exercise, I want that you repeat on your own all the keywords which you know. Again, train them a little bit and repeat them before we start with the repetition of the exercise. And why I'm asking for that? Because the repetition of the exercise is not just a repetition, it will be also a little bit an extension. And what I mean with that is I will repeat, for example, one keyword, but I will extend our knowledge with this keyword. For example, if we have here I have an example here. We have here a for loop. And when we watch this for loop here, you can see this is not the standard for loop which we know. And for example, we have here no curly braces. Then I will ask for perhaps why we have here no curly braces here. And then you have to explain it a little bit. You can say it. This is a shortcut, for example, but this explanation is right. But then I would say, what happens if I write here another statement to this shortcut? For example, if I write here, as it is, see out, I don't know, test, and then I say, why is this not working now? Because like I said, you said perhaps it was a shortcut, because I mentioned in one of my tutorial that there are programmers who use this shortcut. They just omit these braces. But what I'm asking here is more, what are the rules for omitting these braces, right? Are you allowed to omit these braces all time? And that I mean with, we will extend a little bit our knowledge in this repetition. It's so you can see it will be not just a repetition. And here let's make you one more example. In this repetition of the keywords, I will ask you again one task here on top. So for example, here write the for loop syntax and explain the syntax for loop. And explain with the syntax this for loop. What I mean with that is you will try. First, I ask you this one, then you can stop the video and try to solve then this task here on your own first, and try it as good as you can. And then after you tried it, you can play again the video, and I will explain all these new things, what is here, and also not perfect, but as good as I can in practical way, because I can't explain all here as well. It will again just a part, because most time in this little code there is more things in it that we have not talked about, but in future we'll get better and better. And yeah, that I mean I will extend it, right? And for example, let's say this is also a little bit new. When I say write the for loop syntax, you can try to write your own for loop syntax for for loop and then explain it with this for loop. But you can also go to the web, try to find the official syntax, just copy it, because I don't expect that you memorize the official syntax, but you can get the official syntax from the web. For example, I will get it from the web. I have not memorized it myself. And then I will explain this for loop with the official syntax, and that is also not easy. Let me show you the official syntax. For example, this is the official syntax, and when you have something like that, it looks easy, but that's not true, because you have to know all these words, and knowing these words is also, we extend our knowledge. It is nice if you already read a lot theory, because then you probably know all these words already and you are better than me. If not, no problem, I'm not so good as well. We will read them together, and that I mean that we will make it not too deep, because this kind of words they are not so easy. I mean, easy to understand, but not easy to understand in the full length. What I mean with that is, for example, when you read this init statement, right? To understand what an init statement, yes, makes sense. Could be, for example, you could definitely make here a fast example. An init statement is probably what we did all time with our for loop here. We declared a start value. I called it a start value, but this is not the official syntax. The official syntax says init statement, and then you have to figure out, all right, as the start value here, what I explained here is just an example of many, many variations. And all this kind of variations are here described as init statement. And then you have to go down to init statement, and then you have to read what an init statement really is. For example, you have then to go here, init statement, one of an expression statement, and then you have to know what an expression statement is. Or simple declaration, then you have to distinguish about a simple declaration. And you see, in this dev I will not go in. This is theory, and you should go in this dev perhaps in future and try to understand these words a little bit more in detail. But in this tutorial, in this practical tutorial, I will just get the syntax here. I will make only one example, so I will not try to explain all these init statements here and ask you what is exactly an init statement in a formal definition like this one here. Now I will just say here, use the init statement is one example, is for example, make a start value, declare is a declaration, is one of these examples. And then we have here a condition, and you can see this looks also a little bit strange. Is this a condition? Don't know. And then you have to explain this, all this with this syntax. And then when you look careful here, you can see again something very strange. This syntax has no curly braces, for example. The official for loop syntax has no curly braces, and I can tell you this is a little bit tricky here because this is not absolute true, and that's a problem as well. What I mean, it is not absolute true. This is the official syntax. Formal, it says here formal syntax, and that is correct. That is correct. But why I say it is not absolute true? Because they wrote anywhere below what is an exception to this syntax. And the exception is, as long as you write, for example, one statement, you can use it without curly braces. But if you would write here more statements, you can't use it. So this can irritate also, and we will talk about this a little bit more in detail. I don't know if CPP reference.com is this pointing out, but I think so. Perhaps perhaps not. I'm not sure, but there is something like the official papers. What I mean with official papers is the C++ standard definition, or standard papers, or whatever you call them. And in this one, is it all is defined here, and you would look more like here. For example, here I'm here in my for loop. Then you have here again this for loop definition, or the syntax here. Here we have it. Interesting is this syntax is not the same as this syntax again. It's a little bit strange. It says here we can put here attributes in front, and then we have it. The official syntax is here, at least in this version, it says just for, and then here, and then here, and then here, and it says not optional here. That's a little bit strange. We have to talk about this one and try to find an example if this is possible or not. But I think that would go a little bit too deep. We will try just, yeah, and that I mean, we will not go too much in deep in theory because we are starters, but we will extend our knowledge, right? I will not dive too much into, by the way, here is the rule where we can use where we have to use braces and not here. When we read this a little bit, it says here that this one is equivalent to this one, but only if this is with one statement, right? And when you read this one here a little bit, you will see what I mean. And this kind of stuff you can't see sometimes from this definitions, like here. The same goes here in CPP. It stated out this is the formal syntax, but normally we would use also this curly braces, and yeah. And like I said, I will make this also not perfect. What I mean with that is I will just point out the practical use. We in Bravo, for example, I explained this all time so that I said as starters, we write all time curly braces, so we don't care about the shortcuts. This is, for example, practical a little bit easier in a practical way, because I said here we use all time, need the scope here. It's easy to see the scope. We can write then more statements, but the bad thing is this is nice for starters, but we still need to understand this syntax as well, which means, of course, we need to understand that this kind of stuff is also valid. And when we see this kind of code in other programmers coding, then we have to understand this kind of stuff. And yeah, that's the point. So I hope you get a little bit prepared. What I want you is that you try to repeat the keywords which we learned so far a little bit. I hope you have a list. If not, no worry. Just repeat the most what you know, and then I will go through all these keywords, like here, ask some questions, probably not so difficult like this two might to be a little bit difficult because that makes no sense anyhow. And like I said, to find the official papers to see why this has braces or not braces. Yeah, you should just try it. You have, of course, you can later, when we start with this exercise, you have to research this online, which means I don't expect that you can write all solutions without research. You have just research this one, right? So one last recap. So the next exercise will be so that I just ask you this task, then you can pause it, then you can research this question here. So you can use the web, internet, how you solve it, no problem, use all what you can. And then I will present my solution after you press play again. And my solution is also not absolute perfect, but it's more practical, which means the use case in programming. I will not, like I said before, dive here into deep and explain all the little, let's go here again. I will not go and dive into and explain now, okay, this is an init statement. Yes, we should know what an init statement is, but how the init statement is this, and then dive into other references and other references. Oh, that has most time no ending. And that I mean, I will not dive too much into the theory part, but you should read definitely a little bit more to get better, but you have to not dive also too much into it as a starter. It's good when you know at least the standard way. And for example, I expect that you, when you read for loop, that you know at least the standard for loop. The standard for loop would be something like this one. When I show you this one, yes, this one, when I copy this one out, for example, put it in, this one is the standard for loop, and you can see they use again no curly braces. That I don't expect, because this curly braces, like I said, is a more or less already an exception. And this one, you should at least know this one, and you see they have this example here too, but they have some more examples which we will talk, some of them not. For example, I will show you this one, I will show you This one is a little bit really hard to understand for starters, and but I will show you this one perhaps too. And then I will try to explain it also, of course. But there are some other things which we have not talked, I will not show. So we will repeat here examples all time. And yeah, this is also a very good note. All time when I make examples, I will use examples from this CPP reference com. So you will find my examples most time in the section where the keyword is, and then you have just to scroll down, and anywhere you will find these examples here, what I show you here in this page. Not all time, I think, but 90% of the time I get examples from here. So you can all time, you should get familiar with this site here as well a little bit. And the reason for that is, like I said, the CPP reference com is just a little bit a copy of the official papers here. It's very similar to this one. They just copied parts of this here out and put it here in. You can see it, for example, here for syntax, and then they say explanation and while loop and so. And when we watch this one, they will talk the same thing here, similar things here. When we go here to the while statement, no, let's go to the for statement, and here is equivalent to this one, for example. And you can see this one here, I have it from CPP, but you can see here I have it here also. The reason for that is, like I said, they just copy from the official paper. This one is the official papers, and this one is similar, a little bit easier. I think they're more compact, but similar. And if you get used to this site here, you will get easy to use also to this official papers, which means it will be easy for you to understand the formal language in the future, which is also a part of learning. But as a starter, don't worry too much about this. We are more interested in this practical tutorial for the basics, which means if you know this one, later we go to this one, and then we see something like this one, and strange things here, and then we go here to the syntax. For example, here, if you understand this kind of stuff, that's also very nice for beginners. Yeah, I hope you make a little bit preparation, because if you make a preparation, it's better. Or try just to repeat all the keywords again, which you know. And yeah, then in the next video, I will, like I said, I make a real long list about the keywords, ask many stupid questions and try to answer them. Will be not easy. I think it will be not easy, and the reason, like I said, because it's an extension, so you will not able to answer all of them, because you will see many new things, but it is a repetition. So the basics you know, but we will talk about a little bit more than the basics. Let's say we still talk about the basic, but let's call it variations of the basics. Right. So with that said, I talk too much again, and yeah, I hope you get ready and you are motivated, because we need still exercises. This kind of exercises are not so effective like the previous exercise, because the previous exercise was a programming exercise where you really use all your own creativity, all your own thoughts, and try to solve as a program. You created a program, right? This is the future of what you want to do in the future. Yes, in the future you want to write programs on your own. In the future you want to create and solve problems on your own. That is the real use case actually. But this exercise where I ask you questions and then you explain this keywords, this kind of exercise is more, like I said, a repetition of knowledge. It's more theory I think yes, it's more theory than practical use, but we still make practical use cases here. So I will not just talk about why and to what is that and so on. I will test this in code here as well. That's very important, so that it's not getting too theoretical. So I will all time test this code what I ask you here in main, and we will try all time make an example here in our main function here, so that that we can start this code, for example, here, and see what we can see here when I start this one, what happens here. And you can see this one looks already a little bit strange. When we watch this one here, then we watch this one. Okay, this one is very easy, but this one looks a little bit strange. The first one, right? That's new a little bit. I think it's new. And yeah, but more to that in the next exercise. So get prepared. It will be a repetition, but also an extension, and it will be not so easy. So don't worry if you can't. And with that said, I stop here. And yeah, good luck. And if you have any questions or any complaints, like all time, any suggestions or tips and tricks, write them in the comments. See you in the next, and good luck and bye.